Hello everybody, it's Tommy and welcome back to another video. Today we are doing a Disney save speed build video, and I actually think this might be the last one for a few days. I did do 3 in a row. If you missed them, they kind of came out pretty quickly right after one another, and then a Create a Sim. So it's been a little bit of a Disney week, and I feel like we're going to build a couple of different things this week. I want to do some different stuff, but I was already working on this one, and this is a little bit of a happy break from some of the other stuff I've been working on as well, because this is a Beauty and the Beast inspired speed build. So this is called Chapter 3, and it is a bookstore in the corner of Willow Creek, kind of by the water, down where they have a lot of the community lots. I'm going to replace those with different community lots that I have designed. So this is actually a store and also a place for you to come get some coffee. So it kind of doubles as a restaurant and a bookstore. Really simple, really minimalistic, but the exterior kind of overtakes that and speaks for itself. Lots of gardening. One of the things that I've been loving to do for Beauty and the Beast builds is obviously just do overly abundant, really beautiful gardens, lots of roses, pinks, purples, kind of fit into Valentine's Day. This was supposed to go out a little bit closer to Valentine's Day. It didn't, and that's okay, but I still really like how this turned out. I'm excited to have a store in the world as well, and a cafe, because that's kind of what it doubles as, and we haven't really done one yet. I think this is the official first store, so hopefully a lot of you get the reference to the actual name. I did decide to call it Chapter 3. I recently rewatched Beauty and the Beast, and that's sort of been one of the things that I have been doing as I work my way through this save, is literally watching the movies with like a pen and paper and writing down little references and hints and things that I can pull from the movies. And obviously that is a reference to Beauty and the Beast when Belle is singing in the beginning of the movie. Also, I think that it is known, or it is theorized, that the book she's actually reading is Sleeping Beauty. Somebody let me know if that's true, but I felt like that was a really cool tie-in for everything. And also, what are you gonna call a bookstore other than like a book referenced name? So really fun. I'm really happy with that name. And again, this is one of those builds that's kind of out of my head. I'm doing it however I want to do it, and there's not really anything to go off of for reference. So for Beauty and the Beast, I do think cottagey, small town, village, and then you have sort of like the glamorous gold and bright and shiny castle. So there's very polarizing different ways that you could do like a Beauty and the Beast build. But for Belle, I think that she is more simple, and she has an appreciation for little things and like the simplicities of life. So she doesn't really need like a huge bookstore. And I think if she was to design a bookstore, she wouldn't do something like over the top extravagant or very modern at all. She would do it kind of tiny, cottagey, a little bit dollhousey, and I think this is actually what I used as like a physical reference to build, was some kind of like a village dollhouse and or like a village Christmas piece that somebody would put in like their big Christmas village, and I used that for like the shape and structure of the little house here. But I knew that this lot was pretty big, and I knew I wanted to basically fill the entire thing up with a garden, in the hope that you would be able to come here, buy a book, read a book, get a coffee, and then kind of sit in the garden and enjoy the view, the water, all of that good stuff. This is also the first build that I am going to be using quite a bit of the hidden objects in the game. I think I haven't really used any up until this point. No, not for any particular reason. Like, we can use them as much as possible. Like, there's no reasoning behind it. I just find it a little bit tedious to sometimes scroll through all of the different plants and items and all of the things that are in the catalog, because they're not categorized in any type of way, and you have to know that basically all of them are there. Like, if you want a mushroom, for example, you have to know that it's there, you have to know where it is or what pack it belongs to in order to find it. It's a lot different than just trying to scroll through the traditional catalog of stuff, so it can be pretty time consuming, and this build wasn't supposed to be that, so I was a little bit apprehensive about doing that, but I am happy that I did, because lots and lots of really cool plants are available in the live objects catalog, and there's also a lot of fencing and really cool exterior decor. We don't have, like, we have one fence that's like a stone fence, and I really pictured a beautiful old school stone fence with like little weeds and stuff kind of cracking out. And that's not really something we have in game. We have one that came with base game, and in my opinion, it's just kind of ugly. So the solution is to use these like little fence pieces that we have in the live objects category. And it can be a little bit tricky to get them to fit in a space because it doesn't work the way you would like normally draw out a fence and be able to mark it and make it the exact length that you want. You have to piece it together like a puzzle. So here I was already marking out where I generally wanted the fence around the bookstore to go. And it's going to change pretty dramatically because I couldn't get it to fit on that shape. The lot itself and the house was just a little bit too far over at the edge of the actual lot marking. So it would have ended up going off the side and it wouldn't have worked. I think when you replace stuff from the gallery, if things are like slightly off lot, even if it fits within the parameters of like the lot size, it will disappear, which sort of defeats the purpose. I do obviously want you guys to be able to download these perfectly. So as far as packs go, surprisingly, Discover University, I think that might be a Discover University wallpaper that I'm using on the exterior, and I really loved the trimming on the top that had all of the flowers and sort of twisty, elegant little pattern going on around the top. Not necessarily something you would traditionally put on the exterior of any type of building. However, I feel like this really fits, and it fits into like the whimsical-esque look of this. And we are using Strangerville. I've been pretty heavy on the Strangerville doors, windows. They're very elegant and like slightly Art Nouveau looking, and they fit super well into a lot of like Disney categorized builds, in my opinion. Realm of Magic, of course, lots of Realm of Magic on the interior. In fact, I'm gonna have to purposefully go out of my way to stop using Realm of Magic because I don't want my interiors to get repetitive. However, I do think it's important to note that up until this point, we've basically only done Beauty and the Beast and Princess and the Frog. So pretty much everything I build from those is going to look very similar to one another. It's only going to start to look different when you go to a different world. Like, you obviously are going to have different theming, and obviously a Beauty and the Beast themed build is going to look very different from a Little Mermaid themed build and all the other movies that we're going to end up doing down the line. So many of you have been asking about like what movies are going to go where, and I do have like a working list of where I'm going to put everything. I basically went on like the Disney Plus app, or it might have even been like the Disney website, and went through every single one of their movies and wrote them down in like a designated world that I felt was appropriate, with the exception of anything that was live action. I cut. I didn't want to do like any of the like Home on the Range and like the live action Disney movies, a lot of the older ones. Nothing really from Disney Channel, even like the cartoons, although I have thought a little bit about like adding possibly some of that stuff back in, and I haven't done any of like the Disney Channel original movies or anything like that. This is basically going to be very strictly Disney animated, not classic. We're doing like the whole spectrum, and I would say use your best judgment as far as like where you think I'm going to be putting a particular movie. Like, obviously there's very specific ones, like The Little Mermaid fits best into Sulani, and Lilo and Stitch fits best into Sulani, and then you have like the Jungle Book, and the Jungle Book fits best into the jungle themed world. So use your judgment as far as that goes. I'm not going to tell you guys every single movie that I'm doing and every single lot and place that I'm going to be putting everything, because I really want to keep that element of surprise, especially when we move out of Willow Creek and it gets a little less generic. I don't know what world we're moving into next. It'd be maybe Oasis Springs, but it doesn't matter, because we've got quite a few builds left here to do and quite a few residential lots. And I think maybe the next one is going to be Tiana's Mansion. I'm not sure, but I think it will be. So expect that in the near future. And then obviously a Create-A-Sim to go with that. And that will mean Naveen as well. And anybody else I feel like throwing into their little household, because I do want to kind of mix it up and not take every single thing from the movies, make it a little random, make things a little funky, and just definitely my own. I want it to feel not like I'm ripping every Disney movie off, but more like this is something that I have created, inspired by Disney, obviously, as it is supposed to be. So as far as those go, like those questions I've been getting in the comment section, I do answer them from time to time, but I'm not going to be able to answer every single movie as far as where it's going. And then movies that got cut, because there are movies that I feel like I can't do in any aspect. Either maybe they're slightly inappropriate for the time period, because some of Disney can have that element to it, and there's also some that I've never seen and or have no interest in doing in the save. And again, I'm not even going to tell you guys what it is, because I know there's going to be certain people and certain fans of like a specific movie, and they're going to be disappointed to hear that the movie got cut, but you'll never know otherwise, because I'm not going to talk about it. However, when future worlds get added, what's to say that I don't eventually add some of those ones that got cut into the save file, because I'll need more Disney movies to fill up future worlds. So just keep that in mind. It's all sort of coming. Everybody be patient. I'm really excited to share some of the stuff that I have in store for you guys, but we have to take this slow. I don't want it to feel rushed in any type of way, and I've been loving a lot of your ideas. Somebody suggested the other day a Mickey's Magic Shop. Love that idea. I wrote it down. Definitely going to see that in the specific world that is going to end up going into, and I'm just loving your suggestions. Like, you guys are coming up with some amazing stuff. Somebody said a Beauty and the Beast, no, a Sleeping Beauty spa, which makes total sense, but something I wouldn't have thought about on my own. So we're definitely going to include that as well. And I'm just, we got to keep going along with it. It's going to be a long road, but I'm really excited to keep working on it with you guys and your suggestions. It's been super, super helpful. There is a lot of gardening on this lot, so I did cut a little bit of it, but it's just a little bit of like repetition for plants. I was also originally doing a well over underneath that little gazebo awning area, and I decided that it would be a lot better to just put some seating out there so that people could actually go outside with their coffee, their pastry, a book, and experience the exterior, because it's so pretty. You would want to be able to sit out there anyway. So the well gets moved and then I think cut completely, and I also really hated the stone texture that was around the outside of it. I was looking for something that matched the fencing a little bit more and couldn't find anything, especially in like that round shape. Probably is there in like the debug. Again, it's so hard to find stuff sometimes that it's just not worth it to spend like 20 hours trying to search through everything. But some of these rocks are also debug. A couple of the plants, definitely some of the trees, the huge, huge trees. If you guys are ever looking for like an oversized, massive tree that can really give your lot a lot of shading, or just a giant tree, you want to build like a tree house or something like that, I would definitely suggest the hidden objects, the show live hidden objects category, because that's where I find like these crazy massive trees. I ended up using one on the corner of this lot to give it some shading and give that awning little area some shading as well. I kind of hate the way it looks from the world overview because it's all you see. Like when we do a tour, I'll show you guys a little bit better, but the over the top view of this little lot is literally just leaves, which is disappointing because you don't get to see like the full garden, the aesthetic, and when you're traveling it could get hidden, and like, you'll be going through the world and stuff and you'll be trying to find something to do and it might not be your first choice because it doesn't look great from the top view. So I did think about getting rid of it, and I definitely feel like if that's the case for you, that you're going to miss it because it's kind of blocked off like that, then definitely just delete the tree in the back left hand corner. You guys will see what I mean. If you download the save and if you download this lot and sort of place it, you'll totally know what I'm talking about right away. As far as the little spaces in between the fence go though, and the pathways and stuff, I just wanted to fill them up with all of like our pink and purple and red plants that we have. Any type of rose, any type of, it didn't really have to be a rose. I feel like I'm definitely going to overdo the idea of like a rose garden if I'm not careful. So I wanted to do like a beautiful mix of plants here, and I feel like it really works. I try not to do stuff like this. Like, it feels very overwhelming to place tons and tons of plants like this, but for Beauty and the Beast, I feel like it's so appropriate and it fits really, really well. So filling up all of that like little dead space in between the pathways with the garden. This would be so gorgeous. Like, imagine this in real life. I know I say that all the time, but imagine coming up on a cute little store like this, like you're walking down a strip of bars, shops, all sorts of stuff, and you come across this gorgeous little cottage dollhousey bookstore. I would sprint full force into here. The only thing that is a little bit disappointing, and I knew that this was going to be an issue when I initially decided that this is the idea I wanted to go with, is doing like any type of store in The Sims. And the reason I would say more often than not I don't do stores we really don't have all of the appropriate items to like fill a full store the way that it feels when you go into one. Like if you were to go into a bookstore in real life, you would have bookshelves all over the place. So we can do that, but I'm not sure how functional that is. And what I ended up doing is putting a combination of bookshelves and like tables with stacks of books on them, and they don't look very uniform. It kind of just looks like somebody's random pile of books stacked on top of one another, the way that like it so wouldn't be in an actual bookstore. You would have like every book would be stacked up and it would be like the exact same book underneath and that kind of idea. Actually, I think that we have stuff like that in Debug, don't we? And I probably just skipped it. This is literally just occurring to me now as I'm doing this voiceover. You know what? I might go back in and edit the interior. Okay, yep, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm so sorry. This like never happens, but I'm gonna go back in and edit the interior because I think Realm of Magic, and it's a totally new day. This is why sometimes you should sleep on a build, because you need to sleep and then think about what you're gonna do, and you come back and you have a better idea. I think Realm of Magic and possibly Vampires comes with like these stacks of books, and they're in Debug and you can use them and they're like all uniform underneath, the way that like a traditional bookstore would look. So I think I'm going to go back in and replace some of the books, because I've used like the cluttered books in here, the ones that you just put in your house as like random clutter, and it doesn't really give that same feel. So that's what I'm going to do. Please ignore the part in here. I'm going to include it anyway so that you guys can see it in the speed build when we go in the interior, but you'll see it. I'll replace some of that stuff because yeah, why didn't that occur to me? It's just that there's so many items in the game, and I was even doing this earlier, like when I was decorating this house, I found this new item, and it's like a wall decal, and it's swirly, very elegant, very pretty. It's one of those items where the first swatch is something completely different, and then you go to the different swatches and it changes the shape of the item, and you literally had no idea that it was there. So I had never seen it before. I'm sure I have maybe in passing, but I had never used it before, and I ended up using it all over this build. I'll show you specifically what the item is when I do it on the interior, but I used it as like decoration on the wall, on the exterior, and then I ended up using it to decorate like the little library cart. Again, I'll show you guys when we actually go to decorate that portion. But we did have a decent amount of room in here, even though I was building so small and like purposefully so, because it is a little bit hard for me personally to like furnish a store. I knew I wanted to have some kind of a cafe in here, so I knew that was going to take up a little bit of room. We do have a bathroom off to the left, and this is the little cafe that you would walk into. Actually, you're going to walk in the other side, but this cafe would be on the other side of the room. You can get pastries, coffee, espresso, and then there's going to be some tables on the interior as well. That little bump out that we have that's very, very pretty, very aesthetic. You'd be able to like look out into the garden and look out into the world. So I wanted to make sure I put like little tables and stuff over there, and it fills up the space quite nicely. And then the rest of it is going to be the bookstore, which is a pretty big combination of bookshelves and like actual high top tables with book stacks on top of them that I am going to fix. I'm really disappointed in myself that I forgot that that was like a possibility, because that was the one really big thing, or I would say problem I had with this build, that I wasn't feeling the interior as much as the exterior, because I was like, it doesn't even look like a bookstore. It just looks like a cafe more than anything, and it's called Chapter 3, so it is supposed to be a store more so than anything. Another idea that I explored in this build, and I'm not sure how successful it was, I'll probably like put a pin in it, go back to this idea later on. There are so many paintings we have that I never use because the frames are god-awful or they're too modern. And for this, I want sort of like that elegant, very nice like aesthetic. And having like a modern frame in here, like a very clean-cut, plain frame, wasn't really the vibe. I like that sort of over-the-top, castle-y, elegant look to it. I know I keep using that word, but it's probably the best way to describe it. So that knocks out a lot of paintings and a lot of the stuff that comes in that category. And I really wish there was just a way to replace the frames. Even if I had to go into live mode and change the framing on all of them, I just wish that that was something that you could do. So I was like, why don't I try and take some of the other artwork that we have and stack it over the top and see if I can almost get the frame to replace it it or distract so much from what's actually there that you feel like you get a different painting or you're getting a different look. So I did do it. There was like this one, again, like photograph that I never used, and it had like this castle in the background, and I was like, oh, that's such a cool idea. Like, this entire world is supposed to be sort of away from a lot of the castles, and I think Windenburg, we're gonna have like a castle district where I do like a bunch of the Disney princess castles basically like right next to one another. So this is supposed to feel like away from all that, almost like Belle's Village or just like outside of that area. And it would be nice to have like a castle on the wall, like a picture of a castle in reference to them being like far away from home and stuff like that. So I wanted to use it, and it had this really not nice, like chunky brown framing on it that didn't fit with this interior at all. So I did stack like a different painting over the top of it, and it doesn't cover the edge of the frame, but it just sort of distracts from it. It's like a little bit around the outside of it that it makes it look like something a little bit new. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm going to keep like playing around with it because that is such a huge problem for me, and I'm gonna keep trying with it. But it was something I did in this build, and I actually think it did work in here. So it was done on that back wall over there by the cafe, and I did try to do it behind the desk again when I do this little area where you would actually purchase the books, like the cash register area and everything. It just didn't work as well though, because I was using like a sculpture object. You guys will see in a moment here. As far as the interior goes, again, Realm of Magic. We've got a little bit of base game, a little bit of dine out, and tiny living for some of the artwork on the walls. I think the library cart is base game, but it might also be get to work. But this is the object that I was talking to you guys about, like to cover up the edging on the library cart. It wasn't elegant enough, and it had this sign on it that looked like it belonged in a hospital or something, and I really hated it. So I was trying to find an object to cover it up, and it gives it like this look like it's this more old school, very beautiful, handcrafted like iron cart or something like that. So I did that on the exterior too, and something you guys didn't get to see is that particular piece is all over the walls on the exterior of this as well, like in between windows and stuff as like an accent. So always discovering new items, always trying to figure out new ways to use stuff. But yeah, you can sort of see me here attempting to mesh this book into a different frame because I didn't want the gold in here. I wanted it to be white, and I was trying so many different pieces. It really didn't work out as well as maybe the other one had because it comes off of the wall a little bit too far. But this is the idea. I'm just trying to figure out, like, is this something I could use in the future? It definitely will depend on what I'm trying to cover up and what I'm trying to change it into, because I think very few pieces will fit into each other the way that I would like them to. So it's an idea to be explored for the future. And then lastly, we just have the areas where the actual books are going to go. And again, we have this little tucked in corner where you would actually go sit for the cafe. Lots of books, lots of these rose pieces from Romantic Garden Stuff. Again, very Romantic Garden Stuff heavy on this entire pack. Probably for all Beauty and the Beast builds, I would say Romantic Garden Stuff is going to be an obvious one. And yeah, these are the tables that I'm talking about. So I used these tables and then I just put random book clutters on top of them, and I didn't really like the way that it looks. So I'm going to go in after this speed build and change the books to be more uniform, the debug books. And I'm also probably going to change the tables to be a little bit less modern because that was bothering me as well. So I think that's going to be the most of it. We do have a bathroom in here. Very, very simple bathroom using like some of the base game, a little bit older looking furniture, and lamps and lanterns from Realm of Magic as well. The candles. I feel like you can get away with candles in a lot of these Disney builds. So a lot of these lights in here actually get replaced with candle lights. I did put the little saucer light that makes your room a little bit whiter hidden inside of all of the candle pieces because I don't really like that yellowy look all the time. I feel like it works for certain places. Like I'm going for that for like a restaurant. That makes a lot of sense. But in here, it's like a shop. You want it to be really brightly lit, and it just wasn't exactly what I wanted. So this is some kind of like a weird mix between modern and a little bit more cottage feeling. But I really like it. I feel like it's something that Belle would super enjoy, and it's somewhere I could see her really enjoying and owning or operating. However, I don't think she's actually going to own this place because I think she's going to be more in charge of the library and this will belong to someone else. So a little bit of screenshots here at the end. Let me know what you thought of today's speed build and check out all of the other ones in the Disney save at the end of the video. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that little bell icon below to turn on post notifications so you can get updated every single time I post, and I will talk to you all in the next one.